These are the reasons why you should not go to Fallow. This was actually so sad because we were so excited to finally try out the viral, popular, famous Fallow. We are pretty late to the game and perhaps that is why our experience was not so great. I don't know if it's because Fallow is just super oversubscribed now, but it was so bloody hectic. Honestly, it was giving me Mercato food hall vibes and was absolutely rammed. To give the restaurant a fair shot, we ordered quite a lot of items for the menu and from all the different categories. Snacks, land, sea, etc. But a lot of the dishes were actually just really disappointing. And also so salty. Everything was so overseasoned and all the dishes just had this acidic undertone to it. Now, the service was also really bad. Maybe the waiters were all just hungover. I mean, it was a bank holiday. I know I definitely was. But we just had some of the sassiest quick-lipped waiters. I didn't realize paying £24 for a burger came with slamming water bottles down on the table and one-word answers. Speaking of burgers, the Fallow burger is apparently a must try, and for 24 whole pounds, you're expecting something quite extraordinary. It sort of fell flat. I mean, it was good, but just pretty dry, not as juicy, and there was no wow factor. Fallow is definitely not somewhere I would waste my restaurant quota on.
Restaurants are really not worth it anymore. And it makes me really sad to say, but I feel like restaurants are a bit of a scam now. And that's not necessarily the restaurant's fault, but I just do not feel like it's good value to go out to most restaurants anymore, at least the ones that are available to me around here. This is a common issue I've noticed as a restaurant customer. So it's the rising costs, the lower quality. I do feel like the quality of the food has gone down, and I'm not eating at fine dining restaurants. I'm talking about the mid-level ones, the regular restaurants, and the quality I feel has downgraded to fast food level, or what you would expect for fast food. And I'm also finding so many of them have like nothing in stock. I go to order and like, we don't have that, and I have to end up ordering something I don't even really want because they don't have the option I want on the menu. I'm finding that's becoming a lot more common. The pre-COVID times, I feel like in all my videos I refer to the pre-COVID times, but listen, that was the last time when life was good, okay? But in the pre-COVID times, again, as I've said before, I was a broke student. So I was in like minimum wage, temporary retail work while being at college or uni. And I used to get student finance, but I didn't get the full amount. So I was on quite a small amount of the student maintenance loan as well. Even though that was the case, I still would eat out, I think, at least once a week. I'd eat out once a week. I would get a starter, I would get a main and a dessert, and be able to afford that. It was not a special occasion thing. It was just something you did socially, especially because I didn't drink, and I still don't. So if I wanted to meet with people, it'd be like, oh yeah, let's go to eat together. Whereas now, if I'm going to socialize with people, I will actually meet at a coffee shop. And I think because it is, even though it's still expensive, it's cheaper than eating out now. But I literally would go to restaurants to socialize, which is so crazy for me to think about now, because now I will only actually go to a restaurant if it's a very special occasion. So if it's like a birthday, or say an anniversary, like wedding anniversary or relationship anniversary maybe, but I won't even go for Valentine's anymore. Like, I feel like Valentine's is not a special enough occasion now for me to warrant spending £100 plus on a very mid or bad meal. I'd rather just make a fake away. Like this year for Valentine's, I just made steak and mac and cheese at home, and that I absolutely enjoyed that. So that's how expensive it's getting for me. Like, I will probably only go twice a year now to a restaurant, because I'll go for my birthday, and then we did actually go for our wedding anniversary, but we just went to very normal. We went to Nando's, so it's not fine dining or anything like that. It's just very normal, not the most high quality restaurants. But that's how expensive things have become, is that I won't even consider going to anywhere that's like above Nando's level, because it's going to be way more expensive. But that's not even an indication of the quality of the food. Some of my favorite haunts when I was a student, obviously loved Nando's. I loved Wagamama's. That was the place I probably ate the most at before COVID. And I know people do hate them. They're not known to have the most delicious food, and the food is definitely really bad now. I won't eat them anymore. But back then, I feel like the food was semi-decent, especially the desserts. I mostly loved the desserts, to be fair. The white chocolate cheesecake, the matcha ice cream. And yeah, I loved me some Wagamama's. Gourmet Burger Kitchen, which I don't even think exists anymore. I have not seen one in many, many years. Loved me some Gourmet Burger Kitchen and their relish. They used to sell that in Sainsbury's. I don't know if they do anymore, but I loved their burger relish and their super skinny fries and their milkshakes. They were insane. Like, Gourmet Burger Kitchen was one of my tops. Special occasions, I would go to Bill's, because even back then it was seen as a little bit more of the pricier restaurant, even though compared to now, that would be pretty normal. But back then, Bill's was fancy to me, so Bill's would be for a very special occasion rather than a weekly meal. So restaurants are becoming unaffordable across the board for everyone, so not just the customers, but also the actual restaurants themselves. And it's not just one particular thing that has caused this, it really is a combination. So the new taxes that the Labour government have brought into the restaurants, so they're having to pay more national insurance, wages, and this thing from a worker point of view is good. So they've raised minimum wage now, so minimum wage is higher, which is always a good thing. But for restaurants, they're not going to see it as more of a good thing because it's more cost to them to staff their restaurant. Energy costs, so gas and electric bills, have been going insane in the UK for the past few years for everybody. So not just everyday people, but businesses as well. And it does not seem to be stopping. Also, food and supply costs. So I did see a comment on Reddit from a chef that said their cost of their red meat in their restaurant has gone up by 200%. Cooking oils have gone up, meats. I know that chocolate has gone up. So any patisserie places that rely on chocolate's become really expensive now. And then to top that off, they're having to raise their prices to account for the rising costs. And then they're getting less customers because of that. So it's a really toxic cycle at the moment where we customers are feeling ripped off and we feel like the prices are going up too far and the food quality isn't necessarily. And then you have the restaurants on the other side who are struggling to survive because of the rising costs and then feeling abandoned by their customers. So it's a very difficult situation. And I'm trying to be balanced in this discussion, so seeing it from the restaurant's point of view as well as the customer's point of view. But as a customer, even though I know the reasoning behind why the prices are going up, it doesn't change the value for me. I still don't feel like it's good value to eat out anymore, and that is a great shame. Some figures are showing that the number of restaurants operating in the UK fell by almost a fifth between December 2019 and December 2025. So the number dropped from 43,000 to 35,500, which is pretty significant and it's really sad. And I imagine part of that definitely is COVID, because during COVID, none of us could go to restaurants and eat out. But I also imagine what has contributed to that is all the rising costs we have just gone through. This chart explains some of the reasons why people are eating out less. So the most popular answer was it's more expensive to eat out nowadays. And that is what I hear most people I speak to this topic about. That is the reason that they cite. But there's also the increased cost of living, which kind of is a similar reason, to be honest. Trying to save money or eating out feels like a luxury. And for me, I would say, yeah, the two categories I would pick is that it's more expensive to eat out and it feels like a luxury. It doesn't feel like something you can casually do anymore. I feel like I need a really good and really important reason to justify the cost of eating out. So I probably relate to those two answers the most. Another interesting chart from the YouGov report is showing the frequency of dining that's declined across all restaurant types. So it's not just your more expensive restaurants that have been affected by people eating less. It's across the whole board. So you've got your fast food, your mid-level restaurants, your fine dining, and even your coffee shop. So it shows this is an issue in the whole restaurant industry. It's not just at the higher end or the lower end. It's affecting every single part of the industry. Another figure that I agree with is they say 3 in 10 British diners feel that the prices today are too expensive considering the quality of the food. And I 100% agree with this. And that's what makes these more expensive prices harder to swallow, because it's not like you're paying for the same quality you would have gotten a few years ago or better quality. It actually feels like we're paying for worse, For example, last year I went to a ramen restaurant and it was okay, it was nice. It was just, I say, a very standard bowl of ramen and the portion was quite small. That was £16 for that ramen. And then the sides, I think the sides were £5 or £6. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a side because I don't think the ramen itself is going to be particularly filling. And for prawn crackers, it was about £5 or £6, and no lie, they give you about 6 little prawn crackers. I was furious. I was furious. I was like, literally could have made this at home, got some quick ramen from Sainsbury's and at least a massive bag of prawn crackers. And yeah, so that was £16 just for the ramen, 5 to 6 for the side. I probably got a drink as well and then service charge. So yeah, I 100% agree with that.
A lot of people will disagree with me, but you know what never fails to disappoint me? Yeah, never fails to disappoint me every single time. Wagamamas, because why have I just spent 33 Great British pounds on some gyozas, ramen, and a lemonade? This ramen is so bland, there's more flavour in my left fucking sock than there is in this, and I do it to myself every time. Maybe if I go in the store I'll get something a little bit spicier, but am I going to pay £19? £19 for a bit of spice in that? I could just toddle on downstairs and get some packet flavour out of my own noodles. I do it to myself, but I just think, why do I always think it's so much better than it is? Every time.
Going back to Wagamamas, they have said that this year they're considering increasing their prices even more, which is insane to me. So it was around pre-COVID, a curry, because I used to get the yasai katsu curry because I was a veggie back then. It was around £9 to £10, and now that same curry is almost up at £15. Which is insane, especially considering there's not even meat in that curry, it's a vegetable curry. And as far as I know, vegetable prices have not gone up as high as meat prices, so that's a bit cheeky. But the portions have definitely gotten smaller, so I eat meat now. Last time I got Wagamamas might have been a couple years ago, and I could not believe how small the katsu chicken portion was. Like, it was just a few strips of meat. And I remember them being way bigger because my husband always used to get the chicken katsu and he was absolutely stuffed. So then when we went, he actually ordered extra chicken with his meal because it was so small. And I feel like the rice portion got small. So with the katsu curry, he had a small little bit of chicken, small rice, and then just drowned it in loads of sauce, I guess to make the bowl look that it was more full than it actually was.
Give me the jam. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. I need food. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. What it do? I'm hungry.
That's fine. Keep me going through. I'll take it.
And the katsu sauce is just not the same. Like, that stuff, I would be able to drink it in the past. I loved it so much. It was so delicious. And now I can't put my finger on it, but it just feels more oily and bland. It's not the same at all. So I don't even, I mean, I'm not going there anymore, but if I did go there again, I would not get the katsu curry anymore, which I never thought I would say because I was a katsu and Diet Coke girly, so... But I'm reformed now. Dessert. I loved the desserts there, the cheesecake. The cheesecake now is like £8.20 and it is legit half the size of what it used to be. So it's like they've cut one slice of cheesecake in half, which is absolutely treacherous. And the gyoza, I always used to get a starter. They're £8.90 now. And I think you only get like 5 of them. So yeah, and that is, Wagamama's to me is a prime example of somewhere that the prices have gone astronomical, but the quality is taken an absolute nosedive because they didn't start out with the most amazing quality anyways. Another thing I want to rant about is the fact fast food chains are charging restaurant prices now, which is diabolical. So, Five Guys. I like Five Guys. I only like the hot dog. I like the Five Guys hot dog. It's so delicious. And the chips. And I will not go there anymore. A small meal. I got a hot dog, small fries, and a drink. It was like £14 something. I was so shocked because I don't get Five Guys often. And now I will never go there again. I do not know how they can justify those prices, especially when the majority of the meal is chips and potatoes are not going to be as expensive as meat. Five Guys are really bad for that. Like, KFC is really expensive. KFC for a medium meal, I think it's like $10.99. And even in the medium meal, the chips are really small. KFC is super expensive, so that's not somewhere I would go. If I was wanting to get fast food, it wouldn't be my first choice just because of the cost, even though it tastes really nice. McDonald's is pretty bad as well. So back in 2019, a large Big Mac meal was $4.99, and now it's £8.89 for that. So almost pretty much, well, more than doubled actually, or less than doubled. I'm not a maths girl, so yeah, we'll move on from that. But even the saver meals don't feel like saving. So the saver meal, I believe, like the cheeseburger one or double cheeseburger one, is £5.89 or something. And that doesn't feel like a saver. I still think for a saver meal, that's quite a lot. And then the portion is small. Once when I went in Popeyes, I saw their saver meal was like £8. I'm like, that's a saver. I feel like a saver should be £3 max, in my opinion. And McDonald's has always been low quality fast food, but you didn't mind when you were only paying a few quid for it. But now it's like, well, the amount I'm going to pay for that, I might as well just go to a restaurant and get ripped off for the same price. Like, I cannot believe what the fast food places are getting away with.
Come with me to get scammed at Bill's. I went for bottomless pancakes because they were £5 this week. We also got roped into getting a burger and fries each and some mac and cheese. Quite probably the worst mac and cheese to have ever been made. That burger was ass, the chicken burger. The beef burger was fine. It was okay. The fries were nice. These pancakes, you see these fluffy looking, cute looking pancakes? They were dry. They were dry as hell. We didn't even finish a plate each. Now remember, we went for bottomless pancakes. That's what we went for. We didn't even finish a plate each. We got scammed.
I calculated if I was to go to Bill's restaurant today, right now, if I got a starter, main, drink, and a dessert, but the cheapest ones on the menu, plus service charge, it would come to £28.79. And this, so for the starter, it was olives. The cheapest starter was olives, which one I'm not going to order, and two is not going to fill you. The main was a mac and cheese with no toppings, because this new trend of having to buy DLC for your meals. So if I wanted beef or anything on top of my mac and cheese, I had to pay an extra £1. So I picked a mac and cheese with no topping. And I tried to find a picture of it on social media. I could only find a video and couldn't get a really good screenshot of it because the video is quite fast. But it was like, maybe that side. It was like a little dish. It wasn't even on a proper plate. It was in a little metal shallow dish thing. So that definitely is not filling you. And then the cheapest drink was a cup of tea, which personally I probably wouldn't get with a meal. Just think, I'll have my tea at home. I wouldn't pay for tea in a restaurant. And the dessert was 3 scoops of ice cream. And what was really strange, on the menu, the 2 scoops of ice cream cost the same as 3 scoops. That was a little strange. But yeah, if I ordered all that and then paid the service charge, which I don't know what I'm paying for because everything is QR codes these days anyway, that is almost £30. And if you're like me, you're probably not going to walk away super full from that. But also, this is a combination of things I would never actually order. I would not order olives, I would not order tea, and I would not order mac and cheese without any toppings. So if I actually ordered stuff I like from Bill's, my bill would have come out to double that, so more near £60. I can't understand, because someone explained to me this whole DLC thing going on with meals. So when you're ordering a burger, you have to pay extra for cheese or extra for pickles, or sometimes the burger doesn't even come with fries. If I order a burger, I expect it to come with fries. You have to upgrade for the fries. Like, I cannot with these microtransactions. We are being bullied by microtransactions in nearly every area of life. Can we leave it out of food, please? Like, just give me my little half square of cheese and don't charge me an extra £1 for it. One restaurant I will say, and I would love to hear your opinions in the comments, what restaurants do you think still hold good value, whether that's price or quality? In my opinion, it's Nando's still. Nando's is more expensive than it used to be, but it's one of the only places I enjoy going now because I know I'm going to leave full. I feel like the portion sizes are still really decent, and pricing wise isn't too bad. Like, it is around, yeah, for one person, if you're going to get the main, the 2 sides, drink and dessert, it is around £30, maybe a bit more per person. But I know I won't need to eat anything else for the rest of the day. And I still really enjoy the food. And it may be as well as Nando's isn't fine dining, so they didn't start off using the best ingredients anyway. So maybe that's why I haven't noticed too much of a downgrade. But also I think it's their seasoning. I think their seasoning manages to do a lot of heavy lifting and cover up maybe what we would probably think is bad chicken, but because it's seasoned so well, you don't really notice the lesser meal quality. But yeah, I do feel like Nando's currently still holds its value. We'll see whether that changes. But their cake, I always get the chocolate cake for pudding. They've taken a layer off of it. It used to be 3 layers, now it's 2. So that's one thing I will moan about them. A couple of Reddit comments that summarize this video and topic pretty well are here. So there's, yes, used to be a huge foodie, now I go to restaurants twice a year. I cook at home or go to street food places. Even if I can afford it, I'm not paying £20 for a pasta dish. No, I'll get an Indian takeaway here and there, but otherwise just no. And on that, street food, I don't even trust street food as well, because I feel like most of the street food stalls I see here are just blimmin' loaded fries. So you're getting like a £1, what's probably costing £1 bag of chips from Costco with a little bit of chili sauce and like 1 cube of chicken on top. So street food is not immune from this. And this person says, I think that's why cafes and bakeries are so popular now. It's a much more affordable way to still go out and catch up with friends without spending your entire week's food budget in one sitting. This is so true. As I was saying earlier, if I am going to meet up with someone or socialise now, I'll say, oh yeah, let's meet in a coffee shop, because even though coffee's still going to set you back £5, it's better than £30 on a meal. It'll get to the point soon where the mid-range restaurants die out and we'll end up with those at the bottom, e.g. Wetherspoons, and those at the very top. And the majority eat out rarely, but don't mind spending more when they do. I don't think we realise how good we had it for eating out in the mid-2000s, early 2010s. Yeah, this is so true. Even though I ate out quite a bit before COVID, I just wish I enjoyed it more, to be honest. We really did not know how good we had it, but yeah, I can definitely see this being a thing. You're going to either have the fast foods like the McDonald's, Greg's, KFC, and then you're going to have the fine dining, and it's going to be, when people need something quick to eat, they're going to get the fast food. And when people have a special occasion, maybe they've saved up for like a birthday, only then they're going to go to the more expensive restaurants. It's not going to be a casual or social thing anymore. It's going to be an event type of thing. Tom made me giggle. It says, I moved here from Australia and I can tell you that the restaurants and even shite like McDonald's / KFC are so much more expensive here. This one made me sad. It says, it becomes super noticeable when you travel. Everyday sort of low-level socialising / family activities are absurdly expensive in this country. You want to take your family out to the cinema and get a McDonald's, and you were easily looking at £100 plus for a few hours out. It's effing mental. I feel like we're caught in this spiral where prices are too high, so no one can afford to do normal things except as a treat. Footfall and consumption falls, so vendors come under pressure. They increase their prices and focus more on becoming a more boutique experience to try and cope, rinse and repeat over and over year after year. Absolutely. I feel so sorry for families these days, and I really wonder how they cope with like entertaining children and taking them out, because when I was a child, was not from a rich family at all, or family that had a lot of disposable income, but we went to restaurants, used to love Pizza Express, we went bowling, cinema we went to quite frequently, and now I honestly do not know how families afford it, because even just me and my husband going to the cinema or going to a restaurant is so expensive. And as I said, we only do on special occasion, so I can't imagine when you add kids into the mix of that. So that is such a shame, because then yeah, a lot of kids are probably not going to get to experience restaurants. A trend I've been noticing, at least locally here, that makes me a bit uncomfortable is the businesses guilt tripping us customers for how badly restaurants are struggling and for not patronizing them. And I'll put a little video up here, but yeah, I've seen a few of these from local businesses that saying, oh, we used to be really busy, now we're not, and I know times are hard, but you still need to support independent businesses. And I get that, but I really don't know what they want us to do and why the blame is being put on us. We, trust me, want to support you. We literally cannot afford it. If it's a choice between paying your bills and going to a restaurant, we're going to pay our bills. We're not doing it to be malicious, but it makes me feel icky. I don't like the guilt tripping that's going on. And it's fine for them to share their struggles, but what I don't like is when they do mention the consumers saying, oh, you're not utilising us. I won't name the business because the business owner is known for fighting people in the comments and Google reviews of this next business, but they put up a post last year that actually went viral locally, and it was quite an aggressive post, to be honest, like talking about how they're thinking of closing their restaurant and no one was using them. And this was actually a quote from the post, where they're like, use it or lose it. They're like, if you're not going to come to my restaurant, I'm going to shut it. But it wasn't a sympathetic post like, times are hard, I'm really struggling with all the costs. It was literally just berating people for not giving them custom. And it's an interesting marketing tactic, I think. But there were people in the comments that were not impressed with the tone and the post. And again, why is the blame being put on us? We're pretty much powerless. We can't magic up money to spend on leisure and food out of nowhere. Like, we are all struggling, we're all sympathetic, but don't put the blame on us. It's not fair. So on to the shrinking food portions and quality. This is probably the thing that annoys me the most, even more than the price rises, because that I can understand, but the shrinking portions of everything is restaurants, supermarkets, is so annoying. To prove my point, one of the comments under this video was, food is good, I'm a regular customer, however my only feedback would be that the pho is quite small compared to other places and also for the price. So this is what I'm talking about, the portions getting smaller, the price is going up. You're not going to want to patronize anywhere like that because it's just not a good deal. It's reported 3 in 10 British diners feel that the prices today are too expensive in relation to the quality of food. And again, another experience I had last year, it sounds like I went to a lot of restaurants last year, but I actually didn't. But I went to Bill's. I think this was it was either a birthday or an anniversary, but I went to Bill's restaurant and I hadn't been there actually, I think since before COVID. So it's been many years since I've eaten there. And I was really looking forward to it because, again, before COVID, I saw it as my fancy treat restaurant and the food was absolutely delicious. This is the only time I've considered not paying a restaurant bill because I was so unhappy with the food. It was horrific. It wasn't even me being picky because I do not have a refined palate. I will eat most things, but it was horrific. So my husband got the ribs. He got ribs and chips. And he is as well as not a fussy eater. And he said to me, try these ribs. I bit some. They were just rubber. They were grey. They looked grey. They looked really unappetizing. It tasted like they had been left out for a week. I was so shocked. I couldn't believe they actually put a dish like that out there. I got a beef burger. Again, I don't think there's much you could do wrong with a beef burger. It was the driest, unseasoned beef burger I've ever eaten. It was like, you know, when it's just so dry, you struggle to chew and swallow it. Even though I put ketchup on it, it was so dry. Again, tasted like it was probably old and stale and got reheated. And then you get a tiny little soggy portion of chips. So I can't even have my chips to cheer me up. Chips are my favourite part of the meal. You just get a tiny soggy portion of chips. I think it was like 70, 80 pounds it came to. Because we got the main meal, didn't get starters, and we are not getting dessert here. So it was main meal and probably two drinks, non-alcoholic drinks. And that was almost 70, 80 quid. And it was absolutely atrocious. And because of that, I will legit never step foot in a Bill's again. Desserts, again, I won't order desserts now. If I do go out to eat, what I will do is just go to like a supermarket after and get like, you know, the cakes or puddings to have in the supermarket, because they're charging, £7 to £9 on average for desserts, and it's for like a little tart like that or a cheesecake that thin. So I have a sweet tooth. Dessert is my favourite dish, but I will not, as a matter of principle, I'm not ordering desserts from restaurants in this day and age. It's unfortunate as well, with these shrinking portion sizes, you are likely to be hungry after your meal still, or at least an hour or two after. So it's like, why would I spend £100 on food that's not going to fill me? Whereas if you spent £100 on groceries, you'd be able to buy a lot more that is going to guarantee to fill you. So I understand it's a cost saving process for the restaurants, but I feel like it's short-sighted, because we can, I think, cope with rising prices, but if you're going to raise your prices and then the portions getting raised smaller, people are just going to vote with their wallet. Side note, mocktails should not cost as much as cocktails. And I'm not talking about the mocktails that have the non-alcoholic spirits in, because I know they can cost as much as the alcoholic spirits do. But I'm talking about the ones that are like pineapple sunrise, and it's got pineapple juice, cranberry juice, and fizzy water. You should not be charging me £9 for that, as much as I could buy an alcoholic cocktail for. That is absolutely not fair. And why aren't mocktails ever in happy hour? I noticed in happy hour, you get 2-for-1 alcoholic cocktails, but you can't get mocktails, which again, I would imagine they're cheaper to make, so wouldn't you want people to get those instead of the alcohol? But yeah, that's a little side note I want to say. As someone who doesn't drink alcohol, I don't like being ripped off with mocktails. So most of the time now, if I go out, I will just get a Pepsi or a Diet Coke as my go-to drink, because I'm not paying £9 for some juice and sparkling water. Quite a controversial topic, especially when I speak to people about this in real life, but service charge. What is service charge for these days? Because since COVID, most of the restaurants have QR code ordering, which I love. Like, to be honest, I prefer that, where you just order via the QR code, you pay via it. So the only interaction you really have is the waiter bringing your drinks or your food to the table. That's about it. So what is it actually for? And I know in most restaurants here it is optional, but they either make it really tricky to get it taken off, because you can't ask them to take it off. They make it tricky, or people just feel awkward, which I think is fair enough, because then, especially, well, when you order on the QR code, I don't think you can take it off, so you would have to pay the bill manually, and then you'd have to go up to that person and be like, oh, can you take off the service charge? There's a new scheme that I'm sure Todd set up. This rise of tapas and small plates restaurants. So there's like a little high street near me, and there's not many restaurants, I think there's like 5 or 6, but half of them are tapas or small plates. And it annoys me so much. As a matter of principle, I will never go to a tapas only restaurant, because you're getting away with charging high prices that are better reserved for full main meals for tiny plates. And I'm not talking about the super fancy or specialist tapas plates. I'm talking about the places where the tapas are chicken skewers, potatoes with herbs, and hummus and pita. And you want me to pay £30 for that, and the portions like that, so it's pretty much you're paying for 3 starters. This needs to stop. This trend needs to stop. No more tapas. Coffee shops are not immune from this, even though they are cheaper than restaurants at the moment. For the moment, they have sneakily been rising as well.
Coffee shops should be charging £6 for a coffee. When a business sells a coffee, 20% of that coffee sale is VAT and goes straight to HMRC. After this, we need to deduct the price of the coffee, and then we need to deduct the cost of the milk, the cost of the cup, and the cost of the lid. On top of these expenses, we also have additional expenses, which are the cost of the barista, rent, utilities, equipment costs, the cost to maintain the equipment, card processing fees, business rates, waste disposal, and some other general expenses. And before you even sell a coffee, you'll probably have to invest money into marketing the business. If HMRC lowered the VAT to 10%, this might help a lot of business owners.
So a small coffee can set you back £5 to £6 now at a regular chain store. So not even a specialty coffee store. That's pretty standard pricing for specialty coffee, and it's fair because the beans are higher quality, the techniques are different, for example, pour over coffees. But at a chain such as Costa or Starbucks, which is pretty much the fast food of coffee, it's £5 to £6 for a coffee. And if you're wanting a sweet treat with it, which personally, that's how I like to have my coffee, with like a little biscuit or a cake on the side, that's going to take you to at least a minimum of £10, but most of the times over £10. which is insane. But the coffee industry has been impacted as well by the economy, similar to the restaurant industry, rising costs of wages, but also coffee beans. So unfortunately, because of climate change, the coffee bean harvests have not been great. So the prices are going up, especially for the specialty coffee, and the quality, unfortunately, of the harvest is going down. So they have been affected by that as well. And then market experts have actually predicted that coffee prices could increase up to 15% more. So they are going to go through the roof. I feel like coffee is actually a luxury treat now rather than an everyday beverage. So instead of drinking coffee for energy or because you're tired, going for a coffee is like going to a meal. Like I said, now if I'm going to socialize and meet up with friends, I'm like, oh, let's meet at a coffee shop and we'll get one of those fancy, I must admit, I'm one of those, I like them fancy banana iced oat cold foam matchas, so I'm fully prepared to spend £5 to £6 for that. And yeah, I'll go meet up there, chat for a couple of hours. I wouldn't go to a coffee shop just to drink coffee. Like, for me, it is an actual activity, it's an experience, which might be why now I feel like people are absorbing the higher cost of coffee well, because you are getting still quite a good experience to go along with it. But the chain coffee shops, those are the ones that are going to struggle, because as I said, they are the fast food or coffee. They're burning the blimmin' beans. Why are people going to want to spend £5 to £6 on a small coffee, by the way, that's not large, on a small coffee in a rubbish chain, when you could go to your hipster specialty coffee shop and have a really amazing but small coffee for £5 to £6? So I find the coffees in the specialty shops are like that small. Like in Starbucks, at least the small is going to be like that. They're about that small, but they're higher quality, so you don't mind paying that because it tastes really yummy. And that's why now espresso machines are popular and they're pretty normal now for people to have. I see so many people with the Ninja Cafe Luxe, which I think is around £500-600. And that may seem expensive at first, but if you think about the long-term cost, especially if you're a daily or even weekly coffee drinker who would used to go out and buy coffee in a shop, now having that upfront investment, that initial £500-600, is going to save you so much in the long term, and it will make probably better quality drinks than you're going to get at these chain coffee shops as well. So I can totally see why people are turning to espresso machines. And if I could afford that, upfront cost, I would be getting one as well, because that would save so much money. And I really love drinking coffee. I love the taste of coffee. But I feel like years ago, it would only be the proper coffee enthusiasts and people who did coffee as a hobby who would be having these full barista setups at home. But now it's your everyday person, because they don't want to be paying £6 every day for a disgusting burnt coffee. So what do I think the future is going to be for the restaurant industry? Unfortunately, I think we're really moving towards having hardly any brick and mortar restaurants, and I feel like a lot of them are going to move into the ghost kitchen territories to be takeaway only. So, you know, when the businesses just hire a kitchen unit and operate out of that, and they're on the food apps only. I feel like that could be the future with the way things are going. And then obviously a move towards more lower quality food. So it is going to be a lot of the burgers and chips and pizzas. There's not so much going to be really experimental, interesting foods available, especially on those apps. And then, like that Reddit comment mentioned, I think there'll be fast food will always be around. And then I feel the fine dining, even though in smaller numbers, the really expensive like Michelin star places will survive, because that will be what people do on special occasions, and fast food will just replace restaurants. Now, if you want to go for like a nice-ish meal, but that you can afford, you're going to go to McDonald's instead of Wagamama's, because it won't exist anymore. So I feel like that's a possibility. And I feel like there'll be way less chain coffee shops, but there will be a few independent coffee shops, but the ones that are multi-use. So we have some here that are coffee shops, but they also have space for hire, or they're an art studio, or they're a shop at the same time. So I think coffee shops that are multi-business will do well, but coffee shops just on their own, I feel like it will get to a point where they are going to struggle, especially because of climate change. I can't imagine the coffee situation getting cheaper. So I do feel like coffee shops will survive this, but they're gonna have to adapt, and there definitely won't be as many. Like even when I lived in London, I feel like there were Starbucks in every corners, and a load of them have shut down now. So I feel like the chains are slowly going to disappear, and maybe only be at places like service stations and things like that, because if they are in like shopping malls or high streets and there's independent coffee shops, people are just going to go to them. So they're eventually going to get bullied off the high street, I feel. With restaurants, a lot more restaurants will pivot to supermarket food. So I've noticed this a lot. So, you know, in supermarkets now, you can get wasabi meals. They sell Wagamama sauces. So I think a lot more restaurants will go into the kind of instant meal thing. So instead of having a restaurant, they will sell like ready meals and sauces and ingredients in supermarkets. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I think it's really cool to be able to have restaurant quality things at home. But I imagine a lot of them are going to kind of pivot that way rather than having the actual stores, because you can get ZZ's. I think in the frozen bit they have like ZZ pizzas. You can get Itsu now, which is interesting. The Itsu here just shut down actually, but you can get Itsu in the freezer bit. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that going on. But overall, it does make me so sad, because as I said, it's one of my favorite activities, is just sharing a meal with someone and socializing. And it just feels like a thing of the past, and it's something I don't think I'll ever be able to go back to being able to afford on a regular basis. But most of all, I don't so much feel sad for us consumers, because life goes on. There's still other things we can do, but I feel so bad for the businesses, especially like the family run, the small independent restaurants. I feel really sad for them, and they're not getting any help from the government. They're just being left to drown on their own. And it's just so much talent is going to go undiscovered, like chef talent, and food is going to be less diverse, because one thing I love about restaurants is eating foods that I don't know about or I can't cook myself. So the food experience is going to become a lot more bland and uninspiring. But as usual, I feel like this is the conclusion to most of my kind of society commentary videos. But unless the government does something or a miracle happens, I don't see a solution. I don't see a solution. But let me know in the comments your opinions on this topic. Do you have any restaurants now that you go to and you still feel like, yeah, I'm happy to spend my money there? Do you have any restaurants that, you know, you're like, no, it's not worth it anymore? I would love to know your views. And if this discussion resonated with you, I discuss very similar topics on my channel, so feel free to drop a like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.